It's 3 in the morning, and you're staring at the ceiling again. Your phone is face down. Your eyes are closed, but your brain is wide awake, running through tomorrow's to-do list like it's an emergency. You tell yourself something is wrong with you. You've read the articles. 8 hours, uninterrupted, or your health falls apart. So when you wake up in the middle of the night, you panic a little. You assume your body is broken. But the real answer is far stranger than that. For most of human history, waking up in the middle of the night wasn't a malfunction. It was the plan. Picture a cave, somewhere in Europe, 40,000 years ago. The fire has burned down to embers. The air outside is freezing. Inside, bodies are pressed close together for warmth, wrapped in hides, breathing slow. The sun went down hours ago, and there was nothing else to do. No screens, no candles bright enough to read by. So when darkness fell, people slept, but not all the way through. Around midnight, something would happen. Not an alarm, not a noise, just a kind of internal switch. Eyes would open, minds would clear, and for an hour, sometimes 2, people would simply be awake, in the dark, surrounded by sleeping bodies. What did they do? Some lay still, listening to the night. Some whispered to each other. There's evidence that this quiet middle-of-the-night window was when people told stories, processed the day, even had quiet conversations about dreams they'd just had. Then, eventually, the eyes would grow heavy again, and a second sleep would follow, carrying them through to dawn. This wasn't a rare phenomenon. It has a name. The historian A. Roger Ekirch spent over a decade digging through diaries, court records, medical texts, and literature from pre-industrial Europe. What he found was a pattern so consistent it couldn't be ignored. People described first sleep and second sleep as ordinary parts of the night, separated by an hour of quiet wakefulness. It showed up in letters. It showed up in plays. It showed up in medical advice from physicians who casually referred to the best time to conceive a child as being after the first sleep. This wasn't poetic language. It was a description of how nights actually worked. So if this was normal for thousands of years, why does it feel like a problem now? The answer has to do with light. Specifically, the complete and total absence of it. Before artificial lighting, night meant darkness. Real darkness. The kind where you can't see your hand in front of your face. And human bodies, it turns out, respond to that kind of darkness in a very specific way. In the early 1990s, a researcher named Thomas Wehr ran an experiment at the National Institute of Mental Health that has quietly reshaped how scientists think about sleep. He took a group of volunteers and exposed them to 14 hours of darkness every night, for weeks, mimicking the long nights of winter before electric light existed. At first, the volunteers slept and slept, almost like they were catching up on years of exhaustion. But after a few weeks, something shifted. Their sleep split in 2. They would sleep for about 4 hours, wake up calm and alert for 1 to 3 hours in the middle of the night, and then fall into a second 4-hour sleep until morning. During that awake window, their brains showed activity patterns associated with meditation. Their bodies released melatonin steadily through the whole stretch, awake or not. It wasn't insomnia. It was a completely different, ancient rhythm, one that modern light had simply paved over. Here's the part that should make you sit up. This pattern didn't just disappear because people decided to sleep differently. It disappeared because the environment changed. Gas lamps, then electric bulbs, then televisions, then phones. All of them pushed back the moment darkness truly begins. Your ancestors' bodies were calibrated to a night that started at sunset and lasted 12, sometimes 14 hours. Yours starts whenever you finally put the phone down. So when you wake up at 3 a.m., Now, what's actually happening? In a lot of cases, you're not sick. You're not broken. Your body may simply be trying to run a program that hasn't existed in a usable form for 200 years. But there's another layer to this, and it has nothing to do with light at all. In the 2000s, a neuroscientist named Jerome Siegel and his team traveled to study 3 groups of modern hunter-gatherers and small-scale societies in Tanzania, Namibia, and Bolivia, communities living without electricity, much like humans did for the vast majority of history. The goal was simple: record exactly how these people sleep, with no assumptions. What they found surprised almost everyone. These groups didn't sleep in one long, unbroken block, but they also didn't all follow Ekirch's 2-part pattern either. Sleep was flexible. People drifted off not long after dark, woke briefly during the night sometimes, and rose before sunrise. Total sleep time was often shorter than the 8 hours modern guidelines recommend, and yet rates of insomnia in these communities were almost non-existent. Why does that matter? Because it suggests something uncomfortable. The anxiety you feel about waking up at night might be causing more damage than the waking itself. Think about that cave again. The person who opens their eyes at midnight isn't checking the time. They're not calculating how many hours of sleep they have left before an alarm goes off. There is no alarm. There is no deadline. There's just the fire, the dark, the breathing of other people nearby, and nothing urgent at all. Now think about you, lying in bed at 3 a.m. The moment your eyes open, a clock appears in your mind. 5 hours until the alarm. Now 4.5. You start doing math you don't want to do. Your heart rate climbs. Cortisol, the stress hormone, starts to rise. The same hormone your ancestors' bodies released when a predator was near. Except there's no predator. There's just a glowing number on a nightstand, quietly convincing your nervous system that something is wrong. The wakefulness itself probably isn't the problem. The fear of it is. So what would it look like to respond the way your ancestors did, without a clock, without panic? It might look like staying in the dark instead of reaching for a screen, letting your mind drift instead of demanding it switch off. Some researchers who study this second sleep phenomenon suggest that this middle-of-the-night window may actually be useful, a kind of quiet mental processing time, similar to what happens during meditation. Not wasted time, not a glitch in the system, just a different shift of consciousness that modern life forgot how to make room for. None of this means you should ignore genuinely disrupted sleep, the kind that leaves you exhausted day after day. That's a different story, and worth paying attention to. But for the person who simply opens their eyes at 3 a.m., calm, not exhausted, just awake, there might be nothing wrong at all. For most of the time humans have existed, that quiet hour in the dark was simply part of the night. Not a problem to fix. Not a sign of failure. Just a second chapter, waiting on the other side of a brief pause. So the next time it's 3 in the morning and you're staring at the ceiling, maybe you're not broken. Maybe you're just home.